The Lantern-Keeper of Wren Hollow, a short story. Chapter 8. The Memory Trade. The shadow stayed at the orchard's far edge, hatless, patient, and somehow polite, like a neighbor deciding whether to knock or let the house keep its quiet. When Anna lifted the metal button engraved Keeper, the figure's palm brightened, a small reply of light, then dimmed again. She took a step toward it. The shadow stepped back into fog. "Another time," Anna murmured, and turned to the scarecrow. It had returned to its straw-still posture, blue ribbon tidy at the wrist, tin face turned just off-center, as if the orchard had nudged it there on purpose. The night, having exhaled, settled into its ordinary hush. River reciting the same old sentence, branches making their quiet grammar in the wind. On her walk home, the town met her carefully, familiar and changed in that tender way after illness. The bridge no longer shimmered. Mr. Bell's windows were steady squares of amber. Mina's sign read, "Cider Knots Today." And someone, Mina, surely, had drawn a little lantern in chalk at the corner, 6-pointed star inside its frame. Back on the porch, Anna set the button beside her lamp. The lantern's blue flame tipped toward it like a plant toward a window. "Keeper," she tried, very softly. The metal warmed beneath her breath. Borrowed things return with stories. She held the button to her chest and felt a faint pulse, as though the town had found enough of itself to remember that it had a steady beat. Sleep came easily. Dreams came anyway. At first the dream was weather, barely a place. Only the suggestion of cold air and the smell of apple skins left in a bowl near a window. Then a lane appeared, pale stones set in careful order. The scarecrow stood at the fence line, brim tilted just so. When Anna drew close, the tin-pricked features shifted, not a face becoming eyes and mouth, but a constellation changing shape. The hatless shadow waited beyond the rows, clearer now. Not tall, as she'd first thought, but upright, the way someone stands when they've decided not to apologize for being. No hat, hair cropped close, coat buttoned high. The figure raised a hand, lantern palm lit, and Anna saw, quick as a wink, that the light under the skin shone through lines in a familiar pattern. Not veins, not bone. The long arm of a 6-pointed star. "Who are you?" she asked, certain that whispering was right, even in a dream. The shadow's mouth shaped a word she didn't hear. "Come closer," Anna urged. The figure shook their head once. The light in their palm brightened. Between them, the orchard trees rearranged slightly, as if making an aisle. The air tasted like rosemary and rain on tin. Then the dream changed with that effortless logic dreams possess. The orchard braided into the library, into the river bend, into Mina's hearth. Every place holding every other place, like stacked bowls. The shadow stood at the counter of the bakery, hatless still. Mina spoke to them with her kindest eyes on, handing over a paper bag with a rosemary sprig, and the shadow's palm light flickered with gratitude. No one else noticed, or perhaps they had not learned to look. Anna woke with the word "who" on her tongue, and the taste of apple peel in her mouth. By morning, the button had cooled. The lantern flame kept its healthy blue. Wren Hollow went about the day with a deliberate normalcy, the way people cook oatmeal the morning after a storm. Anna crossed to the library with the button in her pocket, half hoping Mr. Bell would look up and say, "Ah, good. You found it, presented without context, the way only a true librarian could." He did look up, he did smile. He did tilt his head, as if listening to a bell beneath the real bell. "You've brought something old in a new coat," he said, his voice lowering as if the shelves preferred rumors to announcements. Anna set the button on the desk. The room's ordinary sounds, the turn of a page, the small cough of dust, stepped back to make room. "It was bone before," she said. "Now it's metal." It came back with a word. Mr. Bell read the engraving with a reverence that didn't make it heavier than it was. "Sometimes objects change material when their job changes," he said. "Bone for carrying the body of a story, metal for fastening it to the day." "Fastening it to the day," she repeated. "Then what is it asking me to fasten?" Mr. Bell went to the back and returned with a cloth-bound ledger, so worn it had become part of the library's furniture. He opened it carefully, the cotton gloves he kept for special pages, appearing, as always, from nowhere. The flyleaf read, in the steady script Anna knew by now, "The Memory Ledger of Wren Hollow. Entries to be spoken aloud, trades to be witnessed by at least one quiet thing. River, tree, stone, cat." "Memory trades," Mr. Bell said softly. "We don't use it often. Once a generation, give or take." When the hollow needed holding together last time, old Fen Coppersmith traded away everyone's memory of his own wedding shoes, so the bridge would remember how to carry weight. He smiled at Anna's expression. "They were terribly handsome, I'm told." "And no one remembers them now?" Anna asked, both charmed and unsettled. "Only the ledger and the bridge," Mr. Bell said. "The trade is never erased, only held in a place that can afford to hold it." Anna touched the button. "The keeper returned because the town gave something up." Mr. Bell's eyes softened. "Or because someone offered a memory that was precious enough to balance the price." "The hollow is not cruel. It keeps accurate books." Anna swallowed. "Do we know what was given?" "Not yet." He gestured to the ledger. "It takes ink and voice to reveal a trade. Both." The book doesn't respond to scribbles. Anna thought of the shadow at the orchard's edge, palm lit like a lantern. "If it turns out the trade was someone," she said, "can a person be traded back?" Mr. Bell did not flinch, only if another memory of equal weight is offered. And only if the one who offers it understands that forgetting is not a joke to be played with. He paused. "But sometimes a memory is given temporarily. Lent, you might say, until the town remembers how to hold itself without leaning too heavily." She remembered the phrase in the keeper's hand. "Borrowed things return with stories." "Then I need to learn who lent themselves," she said, surprised by the plural, the way the sentence decided itself before she did. Mr. Bell nodded. "The ledger likes to be read at the willow gate. The willows keep their ears open." He added a wrapped butterscotch to the pocket of her coat. "For sweetness," he said. "Memory prefers kindness to interrogation." Anna laughed, and the sound made the library's lamps seem a little brighter. At the willow gate, the river had adopted its most ceremonial temperament, flat as a mirror, attentive as a grandmother. The ribbons on the lower boughs turned lazily, touching the water and lifting again with a courtly air. Anna set her lantern on a stone, the flame blue and deliberate, and opened the memory ledger. The paper accepted her hands as if it had been waiting. "I'm here," she said, by way of beginning, because everything in Wren Hollow liked to be addressed properly. "And I'm speaking aloud." The ledger pages did not turn themselves. The willows did not bow, but the air shifted, the way a room changes when a fourth chair is pulled up to the table. Words inked themselves onto the top line. No flourish, no dramatics, only a tidy script like the keeper's, and yet not. As if the town had hired a cousin to mind the pen. Trade entered. The name of the listener, tendered by K. Condition: held until the hollow can bear the keeper without leaning. Witnesses: river, scarecrow, willow. Anna's breath left her like a small bird. "Their name," she said. "That's what we can't say. That's why no one remembers." The willows made a sound like yes without words. She read the next line. Collateral: one lantern unsnuffed in every home on All Hallows. One ribbon refreshed at the gate. One button sewn where a seam had been starved for attention. "The town gave small lights," she said slowly, "and I fastened the button." The ledger warmed beneath her palms. The river threw a ripple like a nod. She turned the page. Ink appeared again. Not the keeper's hand this time, but a narrower script, still sure. Supplemental pledge: a shadow lent by the one who remembers best. Signatory: unwritten. Anna looked up sharply. Beyond the rose, something moved. Hatless, coat buttoned high, palm a faint, familiar glow. She didn't turn her head. She only breathed toward the movement. "Are you my shadow?" The figure stepped closer than before, not quite entering the circle of stones, not quite keeping to the trees. Their face, the portion the dream allowed her, was all attentive angles and stubborn kindness, not hers, not a mirror, but the light in their palm pulsed in time with her lantern. "Are you lending yourself to hold the keeper's absence?" Anna asked. And when the thought reached her mouth, it shaped itself into a gentler sentence. "Have you been keeping watch while the town decided how to say the name again?" The figure lifted their glowing palm to their chest. The long arm of the six-pointed star lay under the skin like a healed scar. Their head bent once. A pledge unsaid and yet given. Anna's throat thickened. "Then tell me how to finish it, please." The shadow lifted a hand and traced a shape in the air. Circle, line, stitch. A pie tin, a seam, a button. The willow gate's arch began a slow, modest sway. "I've already fastened the button," she said. The shadow repeated the gesture, smaller, more precise. The memory ledger shivered. The page turned. A new line wrote itself with decisive strokes. Remaining price: a story given up willingly, one you keep for comfort, not for survival. Bearer: Anna. She let out a long breath she hadn't admitted she was holding. She could do that, perhaps. The thought of it ached the way a splinter aches when you finally look. Which story? Her mind, traitor and friend both, offered possibilities like a careful shopkeeper laying out scarves, the first house she called home by herself. The moment she realized she could rest without earning it, the way her mother's hands had smelled like oranges in December. The night the keeper poured tea and said, "You already carry most of it. Not that one. Not yet." "What happens if I donate a story?" she asked, to the river, to the willows, to the button warm against her palm. The ledger answered, in its tidy calm, "Transfer. Your telling will be held by the hollow to be returned when the balance no longer needs it. You will not lose yourself. You will lose the softness that story gives you until it returns." Anna closed her eyes. She could live without a favorite pillow. She could sleep against a folded sweater until the pillow came back. "All right," she said, and the willows listened with those fine, many ears. "I'll give the story of the night I first believed I could sleep without permission." The ledger warmed, approving and a little sad. She began. She told it as if tucking a child into bed. The small cottage at the river's bend, the tin lantern she'd first lit as decoration, the path by the church, the pale stones that pretended to hold moonlight, even when the moon was stingy. She told the smell of chamomile and apple peel and the sound of quiet courage being poured from a jar into a spoon. She told the scarecrow's excellent posture and the ribbon at its wrist and the way the orchard had moved just enough to make an aisle. She told the exact weight of the first sleep that came without scolding, without bargains, without "earn it" stamped on its hem. As she spoke, the words left her mouth in threads of light, pale, fine, insistent, lifting from her lips to the willows, which caught them carefully and wound them around their smallest branches. It didn't hurt. It felt like giving up a seat on the bus to someone wobbling a little. When she finished, the lantern at her feet burned as steady as blue can burn. The ledger inked one more line. Balance met. Name may return when called with kindness. The willow's sway slowed. The shadow at the orchard's edge tilted their head in gratitude. And for the first time, Anna thought she saw a face under that quiet light. Not the keeper's, not a copy of any neighbor. Someone adjacent to her, like a word that rhymes without matching. Familiar in the way a parallel line is familiar. "Who are you?" she asked again, softer now. The figure shaped a word. The river carried it to her in the rustle of surface over stone. Not who. Whose? The lantern flame fluttered, understanding a breath before she did. "You're the keeper's shadow," she said. "The shape the hollow borrowed when it lent their name to the dark." The figure's palm brightened, then dimmed. "And you can go," Anna added, "when I call their name kindly." The willows bent. The ledger closed on its own with a grateful sigh. And the river took on that particular gleam it wore whenever it expected a ceremony. Anna lifted the metal button keeper toward her chest. The engraved letters warmed, then cooled, then warmed again. The town around her held still and leaned in. She opened her mouth to speak the name and found that her tongue could not yet find it. Not because it was forbidden, because she had not known it before. "Keeper," she said, to the river, to the willows, to the listening scarecrow behind her. "Tell me how to say you." A breeze lifted from the orchard, carrying the small, certain scent of rosemary and rain on tin. of bread cooling in a room where someone has been kind. The scent braided itself into a sound. A single syllable tumbled toward her like a coin rolled across a table. Anna smiled, the kind of smile that belongs to the last page of a chapter and the first page of the next. "Of course," she said. "That's beautiful." She drew a breath to speak the keeper's name, and the lantern at her feet sputtered, once, twice, then went still. The shadow at the orchard's edge jerked. Alarm. Unmistakable. The river's surface shivered as if a second stone had been dropped somewhere upstream. From the direction of town, a bell rang. Not the church's calm chime, but the cracked, urgent note of metal struck hard. Mina's bell. Anna turned, heart flipping. Smoke, thin, improbable, curled above the bakery roof and then vanished, as if undecided. The river whispered the syllable again, urgent now. The button in her hand cooled. "Keeper," she said, and the word hovered on her tongue like a lit match. She ran. Behind her, the willows lifted their heads, listening. Ahead, the bell rang once more, then stopped, cut off mid-note. Anna did not look back as the shadow stepped from the trees and followed, palm light brightening with every stride. She reached the square. The bakery door stood ajar. Flour dusted the stoop like quiet snow. The bell above the door trembled, as if someone had just left. "Mina," Anna called, voice snapping in the cold. No answer. The lantern in her hand refused to light. From the back room, a single tin star rolled across the floor, hit the heel of her boot, and came to rest, engravings down, blank side up, and somewhere, close enough to taste in the air, a voice that should have been held safe by the ledger whispered her name as if testing whether the town could hear it yet. "Anna!" She turned toward the whisper. The room dimmed. The keeper's name gathered on her tongue, and a shadow that was not the keeper's stepped between her and the door. And that brings us to the end of this chapter. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe, and tune in next week for the continuation of the tale. See you next time.